Weird facts about famous people that your textbook skipped. Some geniuses changed the world before they were old enough to rent a car. Some leaders quietly sought guidance from the stars. And one inventor's papers triggered a US government scramble the moment he died. Here are 5 weird, true stories about famous people, expanded with the receipts. 1. The genius who invented calculus at 23. In 1665 to 1666, Cambridge University shut down as the Great Plague swept England. A 23-year-old student went home to Woolsthorpe and started scribbling like mad, Isaac Newton. In that Annus Mirabilis, he laid down ideas that became fluxions, calculus, made breakthroughs in optics, and began thinking about universal gravitation. Newton didn't rush to publish. Much of what he worked out circulated in notes and letters for years. Meanwhile, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz independently developed calculus and, crucially, published first in 1684 with the notation, integral, d, we still use. The result? A ferocious priority dispute that culminated in the Royal Society's 1712 report Commercium Epistolicum, which, under Newton's influence, sided with him and scorched Leibniz. Today, historians credit both Newton for early insights, Leibniz for elegant, publish-first formalism. Weirder twist, Newton's plague year wasn't just calculus. He also split white light with a prism and began the path that led to his reflecting telescope, while in his 20s. 2. Why Albert Einstein refused to be president of Israel. In November 1952, after the death of Israel's first president, Chaim Weizmann, the Israeli government formally offered the, largely ceremonial, presidency to Albert Einstein. He declined in a letter that's still preserved, saying he lacked the natural aptitude and experience to deal properly with people in public office and felt too old. He remained an advocate for peace and Jewish-Arab understanding, but not from a presidential palace. Context worth knowing. The offer wasn't a stunt. Einstein was globally revered, had helped raise funds for Hebrew University, and symbolized the moral authority Israel wanted in a head of state. Yet he knew himself well enough to say number 3, famous leaders who secretly loved the occult, and the stars. On the dark end of the spectrum sits Heinrich Himmler's SS, Einnabe, a research society that sent expeditions and conducted pseudo-archaeology to fabricate a mythic Germanic past. Its work mixed tendentious science with symbolism and ritual inside the SS culture. Scholars stress that the occult label often gets sensationalized, but the Einnabe absolutely existed and helped launder ideology as scholarship. Different tone, same fascination. After the 1981 assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan, First Lady Nancy Reagan consulted astrologer Joan Quigley to help schedule certain public events. Chief of Staff Donald Reagan's memoir blew the lid off the practice. Quigley later described advising on timing for announcements and trips. The Reagans insisted policy wasn't driven by astrology, but calendars often were. And then there's Rasputin, Siberian mystic, improbable court insider. He gained the trust of Tsar Nicholas II and Empress Alexandra because he seemed to ease the bleeding of their hemophiliac son, Alexei. That influence fueled scandal, prophecy rumors, and bitter court politics. He was assassinated in 1916 by nobles who feared his sway over the throne. Myth swirls around him, but the broad strokes are well documented. 4. The secret life and afterlife of Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla dreamed of transmitting information, and perhaps power, wirelessly. His Colorado Springs lab, 1899 to 1900, produced gigantic discharges and careful notebooks on resonance and radio phenomena. From there, he tried to scale the dream at Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island in the early 1900s, a globe-top transmitter meant for long-distance communication and, in Tesla's vision, wireless power. Funding cratered. The tower was dismantled in 1917. When Tesla died in 1943 in a New York hotel, the U.S. Office of Alien Property took custody of his effects. The FBI consulted experts, reviewed the materials, and later declassified files summarizing what was found and what was returned to his family. The death ray of legend. There's no evidence of an operational weapon, just proposals and speculation, but the paper trail of government interest is very real and readable today. The man behind the myths, Tesla's showman streak, public demos of crackling coils, his rivalry with Thomas Edison, AC versus DC, and his monastic personal routines helped birth a cult of personality. But the core legacy, polyphase AC, induction motors, and radio-adjacent work, wasn't magic. It was engineering genius with a flair for theater. 5. The dark side of Disney you never heard about. Walt Disney is synonymous with wonder, but the studio's past is more complicated. In 1941, Disney animators staged a landmark strike over wages, credits, and union recognition. The walkout lasted 5 weeks, drew federal mediation, and permanently altered the studio's culture. It also helped catalyze a broader union wave in animation and sent talent spinning off to new ventures, including what became United Productions of America. World War II then shoved Disney into a different role. The US government requisitioned space at the studio, and Disney's artists churned out training, propaganda, and morale films, work that paid the bills but narrowed creative output. Think Der Führer's face, victory through air power, and instructional reels for soldiers. Post-war politics got thornier. In 1947, Walt Disney testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee, naming suspected communists in Hollywood, a stance that made him a hero to some and a villain to others. The studio's cultural legacy has its own flashpoints. Song of the South, 1946, has long been criticized for racist depictions. Disney has kept it off modern US platforms. In 2020 to 2023, the company moved to retheme Splash Mountain, once tied to the film's characters, into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, part of a wider reckoning with the attraction's source material. To wrap it up, from calculus in a plague year to palace mystics and a secret scheduling first lady, from a visionary's seized notebooks to a studio built on magic and scarred by labor wars, history's icons are stranger and more human than their statues. Which story shocked you most? Drop a comment, share this with a friend who loves odd history, and subscribe for more fact-check deep dives.